might have transpired in New York to be available when we are called upon and when we're needed, because it's going to take a great deal of time for things to get back to normal in New York City, and they may well need our resources, and we want to be available and prepared to respond to requests that might come our way.
Governor, what do you think it says that at a time of national tragedy like this, some of our top elected officials were squabbling about a congressional primary?
I think the people who are in charge of the election, the Attorney General, who is our Chief Law Enforcement Officer, and I were in complete agreement that we shouldn't shut down an election in the face of terrorism, and I'm glad that that is, in fact, what happened.
Thank you.
Governor, you mentioned the importance of...
We've been watching Acting Governor Jane Swift addressing the residents of the Commonwealth. This is the second time today that she has come out and spoken from the bunker there in Framingham tonight, saying that families and their needs certainly are at the top of her list. She's hoping to get back to business as usual tomorrow at the State House, and says that any kind of resources that are needed to investigate this situation, she will be willing to provide.
Sort of interesting, she said that no threats have been made against Massachusetts, but there certainly has been a Boston connection to the tragedies which have gone on today. Two airplanes which left Logan Airport this morning within 15 minutes of each other, both going to Los Angeles. One an American Airlines, one a United Airlines flight. Both had overnighted here in Boston. And they are the two planes that hit the World Trade Center towers. That means that terrorists got on board those planes here at Logan Airport. And there's going to be a lot of people discussing some of that information, how in the world they got on. No one knows right now if they used guns, if they simply overpowered the pilots, or what.
And Jack, we have learned now that authorities are looking for a number of vehicles, 2 cars with at least 2 men of Middle Eastern descent in the Hanscom area. And nationally, they're looking for a white Chevy van with New Jersey plates, and on the back bumper, it says something to the effect of urban moving system. So all points bulletin out for these vehicles and these individuals. So how they may be connected, none of us actually knows at this point.
Those 2 flights that left from Boston this morning, the American Airlines flight left just before 8 o'clock. At 7:59, had 92 people on board. The United Airlines flight 175, again, both going to Los Angeles nonstop. It left at 8:14 this morning. It was the American Airlines flight that hit the North Tower. That was just before 9 o'clock. And about 10 or 15 minutes later, it was the United Airlines flight from Boston that slammed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. And what we've seen today, of course, absolutely horrendous. And we've had some local victims as well, including all of the crew from the American Airlines flight was from Boston.
Yes, and David Robichaud joins us now from Drake, where the pilot of that American Airline flight called home, and a little bit earlier today, his brother spoke on behalf of the family. David?
That's right, Kim. When American Airlines pilot John Oganowski left his beautiful farm here in Drake this morning, he said goodbye to his wife and his 3 daughters. And then, as is customary, he drove by the home of his parents and his brother, and he honked his horn on the way by. His family learned of the tragedy the same way many of us did, on television. Now, John Oganowski is 52 years old. He's a pilot of the American Airlines flight number 11 that crashed into the World Trade Center after being hijacked on the way to L.A. He had been a pilot for American Airlines for 22 years. His wife, Maggie, is also a flight attendant for American Airlines. Now, Oganowski family lives on this 150-acre farm, which John fought hard to preserve, and his brother, Jim, spoke of John's love of land and air.
This is Murph. John loved to fly, but more importantly, of course, he loved his family. And John's legacy is where we stand today. There's 150 acres of land here that John fought for many years with the town of Drake and the state. There's 150 acres of land here that are going to remain, as we see them today, as open space through the Massachusetts Agricultural Preservation Act. So take a good look at the beauty of the land around here. That's John's legacy. This is quite a cowardly act, what we have seen today. Attacking civilians, not military. Whatever it takes, my unit will be involved, and I would like to be the first one to step forward and be involved with that.
You can see that flag draped over the doorway there as a sign of patriotism. They put that up just a couple of hours ago. Here on this beautiful 150-acre farm is where the Ogonowski family is gathering to mourn John. His brother Jim called him a hero. We'll have more coming up at 5 and 7. For now, live in Drake, I'm David Robichaux. Back to you.
David, thank you. John Ogonowski had a co-pilot on that plane, and we understand his name was Tom McGinnis of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Tom leaves behind a wife, Cheryl, and 2 teenage children, a boy and a girl.
And there has been more than just speculation, but reaction from sources within American Airlines that they just can't believe that somebody like Ogonowski would actually be at the controls when it slammed into the World Trade Center. Many people are now saying, again, this is a speculation, but it's pretty good speculation from people who are very familiar with the situation, that obviously somebody overpowered the plane, the cockpit controls, and took over that flight to slam into there, because they can't believe that anyone, including a gun at their head, is going to slam a plane into a building in which the 2 buildings house some 50,000 people working this morning in New York.
You know, Jack, and that's one of those things we may never know the answer to.
Well, exactly we do know that they can activate a recording system specifically within the cockpit itself, and that is the same as the black box, which they're able to withstand direct impacts. There is a chance that somewhere in that rubble there are a couple of black boxes. If so, that would have recorded the conversations within the cockpit, but that's weeks, months, perhaps away before we can find out. But meanwhile, that All Points Bulletin, they are looking, and I'm sure a lot of questions are being asked about security here in Boston.
Absolutely. In fact, the high-rises here in Boston all were evacuated today. Robin Hamilton joins us now from Back Bay, where we had lots of people leaving the city today, didn't we, Robin?
That's exactly right, Kim. Well, I mean, some of the most prominent buildings in the city are here, and a lot of people were extremely concerned, and for that reason, a number of buildings issued an evacuation. I mean, usually this time of the day, the streets are bustling with activity, but right now, as I'm sure you can see, it is quite quiet and almost empty. A number of buildings, including the Presidential Center as well as the John Hancock buildings, issued an evacuation where thousands and thousands of employees left earlier this morning. And as we move over, I'm not sure if you can catch it, but the flag in front of the Prudential Center is at half staff. This gives you an idea, and really is just a grim reality of just how far-reaching this disaster is.
Our colleague across the hall informed us that one of her co-workers' husbands was on that flight that was destined for Los Angeles. And I just fell apart. They had just adopted a little baby boy named Rocky, and now there's a life that I know that has been shattered.
Now, coming back out here live again, you can see the flag is at half staff. Overall, just the mood is extremely somber and sad. You can see the streets are pretty much empty, and a lot of people, not only are they sad, but extremely tense. They're very much wondering about some of the friends or relatives or anyone they knew in D.C. or in New York. So, again, it's just a very tense mood. One more thing I do want to mention, there has been a police presence around here. They're being very tight-lipped about what they are doing or where they are stationed, but we know that there is a presence here just making sure that everything is secure. Back to you.
All right, Robin, thank you very much. You know, showing how busy Logan Airport is on a morning like this when all those aircraft are taking off. Between 7 and 9 o'clock this morning when the 2 airplanes were hijacked from Boston, 220 aircraft either landed or took off from Logan Airport. 106 departures, 114 arrivals. Again, the 2 planes that were hijacked went within 15 minutes of each other today and were diverted toward New York City. And those pictures, which are absolutely flabbergasting to see. We didn't have a picture of the first one hitting, but you can see the second one hitting. The first one was the American Airlines flight. Here comes the United Airlines slamming into that second tower. And
this, of course, unfolding on live television today. This was, many Americans saw this happen.
And, you know, these are really lethal bombs because they picked 2 planes which were leaving on an across-the-country intercontinental flight, transcontinental flight, I should say, between here and Los Angeles. They were loaded with thousands of pounds of highly volatile fuel and slamming into there at a rather high rate of speed. And, of course, that plane went deep into the building. Right. And it didn't take long before these 2 buildings were no more, crashing down on a lot of the workers and others there in New York. York. And the other thing which we've not brought out, which is so true, is that a number of people who are from Boston go to New York on a regular basis. Thousands of people a day are down in New York. The shuttles going back and forth, and no one knows the true extent. That's a massive complex, that World Trade Center, with a lot of meetings scheduled. I know Associated Press was quoting a company from down in Rhode Island that has scheduled a meeting this morning at the World Trade Center with some of their employees. So it's going to be some time until we can sort out just the total extent of this massive tragedy, including its ties here to Boston.
Right. And keeping in mind, too, what's happening economically, we won't know that for quite some time, but keeping in mind that Logan Airport is closed down indefinitely, and at this point they've actually asked all employees and everyone to leave Logan Airport. Any passengers who may have been waiting there for the airport to reopen, they have asked all of them to leave. So the investigation is in full swing there at Logan Airport, and it could be hours and possibly days before Logan Airport is up and running again. Shelley Lockhart is standing by at City Hall Plaza. And Shelley, today non-essential city workers all sent home, but City Hall never really closed down, did it?
No, the mayor and his essential personnel were here to kind of monitor the situation around Boston. But if you take a look at City Hall Plaza, it's completely cleared out this afternoon. A lot of people have gone home. Again, as you said earlier, and I just said also, that many of the city's non-essential personnel were sent home. It was the same story at the State House earlier today. And as Robin Hamilton told us, it was the same story at many of the high-rises around Boston. Now, we did have a bomb threat right across the street here from City Hall Plaza, but that turned out to be nothing. But because of things like that, there has been a very high law enforcement and emergency personnel presence all around the city today. Extra people have been called in just to make sure that everything goes well here in Boston. And the officers, of course, are on alert just in case something happens.
Of the situation, the department certainly has identified, has been a member of a terrorism task force with other federal and state agencies, have identified a number of properties that certainly are a concern. We're taking security precautions around all of those, and certainly we'll be working through the coming days to ensure that the city gets back to business, if you will. But as the mayor has indicated, life has changed.
Now the city will have increased staff for police and emergency personnel for the next few days. They're not saying exactly how long. Everybody has been put on alert, although not every single employee has been called back in. 911 is operating as normal, we're told. All of the emergency programs are working just as normal here in Boston. They may send a medical disaster team, we're told, to New York as early as tonight to help deal with some of the casualties there. And as we get more information on what is happening with Boston City employees and state employees tomorrow, we'll let you know. Reporting live from City Hall Plaza, I'm Shelley Lockhart. Kim, Jack, back to you.
Shelley, thanks so much. We were talking about that all-points bulletin for those vehicles a little earlier. We've put that now on a screen here so you can see it. So if any of this should be familiar to you, again, it's a nationwide all-points bulletin, a white Chevrolet van with New Jersey registration. On the back of it, it says something about urban moving system or systems written on the back. And again, they're looking for a vehicle with at least 2 men of Middle Eastern descent. It was in the Hanscom area, looking for that vehicle here in the Massachusetts area. So these could be some tips for us.
Yes, and also closing down the airport, I'm sure right now they're trying to figure out if they can determine any breach of security, since a number of hijackers, no one knows if weapons were actually brought on board or not. Some 1,500 state-owned buildings were locked and secured today. Now, the governor was indicating she hoped it would get back to business as usual tomorrow, and I was on CBS News about 40 minutes ago. During one of the interviews, they said that they hope to have the airports around the country open perhaps as early as noon tomorrow, but it'll be later tonight when we'll be able to give you more information on that.
One thing we know that will not be business as usual tomorrow is Wall Street. We understand now the trading day has been canceled for tomorrow as well. A
reaction around the world on some of the stock markets, of course, has been very rough today. This not only affects the United States, the symbols of capitalism in this country you see actually being blown totally apart there in New York City. These pictures of the World Trade Center towers.
Pictures we'll never forget, Jack.
Never. Terrible on September the 11th, ironically, 9/11.
Yes, that's right.
911, like the emergency call. We're going to be covering this all throughout the night. We have the 6 o'clock news coming up on WBZ from our local perspective, and then we're working hard to put together all the late information combination of local, national, and international news coming up at 7 o'clock on UPN 38.
We have lots of coverage yet to come. We hope you'll stay right here with us at WBZ. Thank you for being with us. We're going to send it back to the